breaking ball hit well, deep to center. Roller going back, near the wall. This baby's gonna go! Troy Johnston has a 3-run bomb!
This is the Turn 2 podcast with Scott Kornberg and Troy Johnston.
It's episode 3 of the Turn 2 podcast with Scott Kornberg and Troy Johnston, Miami Marlins minor leaguer in big league camp. Troy, how are you doing today? Thanks for the time.
Well, I'm excited. Nobody had to amputate my ankle, but because I was ready, getting a rusty saw. I'm like, don't worry, I'll grab some whiskey and they'll cut it off. But I'm feeling better and I'm happy to be back doing the 3rd episode with Turn 2, and we have a very exciting guest coming up. I'm an awesome guy, and we had some really good chats.
What can you tell us about Greg Colbrunn? First off, you are the guy who works with him far more often than I do.
He has a very good sense of humor. He likes to joke around, but when it's time to be serious, he is serious. But a majority of the time, he is a very fun person to be around, good energy, really good personality, and he really knows his stuff. What was it, 13, 14 years in the big leagues, played for multiple different teams, including the Marlins. I believe did he win a World Series with the Marlins? I don't know. We'll have to fact check that.
He won with the Diamondbacks and the Red Sox. Those are the two. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he's won 2 World Series. One as a coach.
With the Red Sox, yep.
With the Red Sox. And I mean, he just knows his stuff. We had some good chats even off the stream, even talking about it and that kind of stuff. The funny thing about it is he'll laugh at this when he hears it, but he's been inviting more and more people to our podcast all the time. Ever since that he was like, hey, do you hear about Troy has a podcast? You want to be on it? And just keeps inviting people.
Really?
I'm like, at this stage in the game, we're going to have the whole Marlins organization be on our podcast every week.
Fantastic. This is great. We don't have to do any work finding a guest.
Yeah, we don't have to do any work.
Thank you, Colby. I appreciate that.
He's doing our research for us.
So the last time we talked, spring training games had just started. I want to actually kick this off. I had something that I think you'll love. It happened to me yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday, releasing it Tuesday. But yesterday I was at a school to read Across America week. And I got into the parking lot and my car did not start. And I think normally when you have to get your car towed, and I found out it's going to be a lot of money and it's going to be in the shop for 2 weeks, those are all negative things. But I just had an amazing day yesterday. And I think you, as like this positive person of humanity, would love this story. So my car doesn't start. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, I just need to jump. So I walk back towards the school, and there is a reporter who was also doing some reading there, Justin Barney, who I don't think you've met, but he's a sports reporter in Jacksonville, and apparently is really into cars. And so he spent like 2 hours working on my car in the parking lot, drove me to get a new battery, which that wasn't the problem. So I have to return the battery. But I just thought it was like, I thought going to sleep last night, I'd be in a horrible mood. And I was like, that was so incredibly nice of him. And it just gave me this amazing outlook on a not so great situation because I don't have a car for 2 weeks. But my wife is amazing and she's letting me use hers.
Okay. That is an unbelievable instance that you just ran into somebody and they're like, hey, just work on the car a little bit. I do that. So I challenge you then. So remind me of his name?
Justin Barney.
So he went out of his way. So I encourage you now in this positive podcast that we are doing to pass it on. Next time that you see somebody, which I know you already do, but next time that you see somebody in trouble like that or needs a hand with something, I challenge you, even our listeners, I challenge them, pass it on. Go out of your way to do that. You don't know how much it makes that person feel positively. It'll change the whole aspect of their day, their year, the rest of their lifetime if you just go out of their way. My wife always made fun of me because I was always the person that would jump out of the car when a car is stopped in the middle of an intersection. I would push the car because I know.
You do that? Wow.
A lot of Americans sadly can't push a car. Me being an athlete, I can push a car. So I feel like with all of my training, I should put it to good use and push some cars. But like I said, pass it on next time you see something like that.
Yeah. I asked him for a jump and he tried to give me a jump with like his spare battery he has in his car. He tried to give me a jump with his actual like engine. He then drove me to Napa Auto Parts, which is the nearest auto parts store, to get a new battery, helped me install the new battery. When we realized that wasn't the problem, helped me reinstall the old battery so I could return the new battery to save some money. Then tried to work on the starter. I mean, it was incredible. It was incredible. I just, it was 2 hours of his day that he did that. And I was just, I thought I would bring that up because you are like this super positive person. I wanted to get your reaction on that.
Well, I hope I gave you a good reaction because that is humanity at its best, right?
Yes.
Literally one person helping another. That warms my heart, gives me some goosebumps, not full goosebumps,
Yeah, it's a little bit, a
a
little
little
bit.
bit, just a little taste, a little taste.
Is Goosebumps, so back to baseball. Goosebumps. So you guys have seen a pretty interesting schedule so far in spring training, and the guy who I think maybe has stood out more than anybody so far is Juan Soto, who you guys saw earlier this week. I know you didn't play in that game, but like, do you have? I don't want to say goosebumps because these are peers of yours, but is it different to see a Juan Soto or a Bryce Harper, who the Phillies played the Marlins last week, or Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt, all these guys you've seen in your spring training slate that are, I mean, these are future Hall of Fame players for sure, almost. Like, what's that like to see them for you? Because so far in your career, you see some really great players. You play with them in the Marlins system. You also obviously play against them in the minor leagues, but these are guys who are so established as superstars that you're getting to come across.
I mean, it kind of sucks with the whole Juan Soto when I actually look at it because I am older than him. And
That's crazy. So crazy.
He's been in the big leagues. But again, that is the 1% of play, like half of a half of a half of a percent. You talk about the Bryce Harper, the Paul Goldschmidt, the Arenado. Like that is such a small portion of the actual, you know, community of baseball. But they stand out so much because they do the little things good, not just good, great. They do it better than everybody else. We'll put it that way. And to watch them go through the process of how they're getting ready, how they're doing different stuff. Like I saw him take a round. Soto went backside home run, roll over to first base, stepped out, home run, backspun to right field that probably would have hit the Jaguar Stadium in Jacksonville. And so, like, it was kind of funny because there was two women walking up on a catwalk up there and they almost got hit by this ball and it went out of the stadium. Wow. And so seeing those kind of things and being like, that is how professionals do it. And how can I implement that into my game so that I can not only, hope to play there one day, but to play next to them, be friends with them, do whatever I have to do to play with them instead. And so not being starstruck in a sense, because maybe the first time that I saw him when I first got drafted and like first time going up and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's these guys. I'm like, oh, they're just regular people. They're like you and me. It's just like us talking right here. It's just the difference is they're really good at what they do, and the things that they do really well are the little things that nobody thinks about, that nobody does the same. They know how their body works. They know how to research pitchers. They've seen millions and millions of pitches. They know how to hit the ball, how to play defense, that kind of stuff.
So this begs a question for me. You are a first baseman, which means anytime that if you're playing in the field, and let's just use Juan Soto as an example, which didn't happen obviously this week because of your ankle, but you're in theory getting to talk. Like, do you ever try to pick these guys' brains, and what's that conversation like if you're on first base playing in a big league game and maybe there is a future Hall of Famer who happens to walk or get a single? Like, do you talk to him? Like, what's that like?
So I got two stories for you. Actually, I'll take three stories if you got the time.
Yeah, we have the time. We have the time.
If you have the time. So first part, my parents always ask because sometimes a camera will pan to me, of course, when somebody gets a hit and I'm on the screen, whatever it is. And my parents will text me and be like, oh my goodness, you just talked to this person on first base. What were you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Usually it's, hey, how we doing? Nice hit. Good. Oh, where'd you get those shoes? Those are pretty cool. Or, something like that. We're just literally just chatting back and forth, just regular conversation, stuff like that. And the other one, I'll kind of move on from that. I was starstruck for the very first time. And I think it's so cool because he remembers me. Was one of my favorite players growing up was Robinson Cano. And he was a Seattle Mariner at the time when I was kind of watching the Mariners and like being a fan of them. And I modeled my swing after him. I loved how smooth it was. It was such a nice lefty stroke. And when he was on first base in a backfields game, I was like, "Hey, like, how do you like Seattle?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, I loved it. I lived in Bellevue. Like all this different kind of stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, it's so cool. I'm making a connection with him." And then "All right, good luck this year, Bobby." And then when I went down to the Dominican and he was playing for the Estrellas, he was on second base, and I'm like, "Robbie, how you doing?" He's like, "Good, Bobby. Nice swing, nice swing." I'm like, "Do you remember me?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, for the Marlins." And I'm like, "My life is made. This is great. I I could die right now. I'm happy. I'm good." But other than that, so that's my second story because that's pretty much the conversations I have. But I did have one conversation with Pete Alonso. It was last year when I was playing first base. He was on first base quite a bit. He got walked a couple times, and talking to him just about how he plays first base. He did this interesting thing with his foot on the bag and like where he stands, and I was asking him questions about that. So, as you know, I'm a talker, and I got a lot to talk about. So I will just rip questions at people when they go to first base.
Does anyone ignore you? Like, do you ask questions and then you just get like a stone face? Does that ever happen?
Not too often.
What it
Sometimes,
happens?
sometimes if they don't speak English, and
Yeah.
then I'll be like, "Oh, you don't speak English, I'll speak Spanish." So that's kind of the transition there. It's like I'm like, "Oh, you don't understand what I'm saying? Let me try a different language." And if they don't know Spanish, then I'm just whatever. If they're French or I don't know Brazilian, I don't speak very good Portuguese. Oi is about the only word I know.
Obrigado. I
Obrigado.
honeymooned in Portugal, so that I know that word at the very least.
What does that mean?
It means it's kind of like it's like a big like thank you, hello, goodbye kind of thing.
Oh,
Like I almost equated, and I might be wrong. It might be someone listening who's like, "Man, this is wrong." It seemed like when we were in Portugal that it was like a shalom thing where it means a bunch of different things, but it's like a respectful thing to say if you're meeting with somebody.
when'd you go to Portugal?
I honeymooned there. Um, we
Oh,
honeymooned in 2019 October, and it was amazing. Have you been out there?
no, I've never been. The farthest or the closest I've been to South America is Mexico and St. Lucia.
I heard Mexico's amazing. I've not been.
Yeah, Mexico's fun. Well, everybody on the West Coast, they go to Mexico. It's closer. It's not like going to the U.S. Virgin Islands or something on the East Coast. You can go to all the islands and little places like that. It's really close, and of course in Florida you have beaches and you have nice things like that. You can go to a beach bar, you can hang out. In Washington, we just don't have that. Hold on, excuse me. She'll be joining the stream with us for a second. She keeps crying in the background.
I didn't hear it, but
Oh, you didn't hear it? Oh, she was crying in the background.
So for those listening, what do you have on your lap right now? If you could watch it on YouTube.
I have a 22-pound Boston Terrier French Bulldog named Pixley, and she is a little crybaby. Probably wants food or somebody to hang out with her and keep her warm. She's got short fur. She gets cold easily, and now she's running away again.
She was about to be our first star of the podcast.
Good. We were going to ask her questions and everything, and she was
she was going to make a plate appearance. So I will say my wife is incredible, and I think you've talked about Haley for you a little bit too, and she's amazing. So we did this thing for our honeymoon where we each came up with 3 places we wanted to go to try to like figure it out. And none of the 3 places I think were the same. So we were like, okay, what do we do now? And then I think she said, what about Portugal? I think she was like Googling stuff, and it was like Europe. We were both kind of interested in going to Europe, and it was different. And I don't know, for some reason, it sounded cool. I didn't know much about it at the time. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Became a big wine person. There's 2 like major cities there that we went to, Porto and Lisbon. And like Porto was super walkable, and there was this bookstore where J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, got the inspiration for the moving staircases. The food was amazing. I love seafood, so that was a big thing there. It was just an incredible trip, amazing. So if you get a chance, if you like wine, amazing. If you like history, it's all over the place there.
Yeah, you have me sold. Is Portugal below Brazil, but it's not, or is it above Chile? Because I know Chile runs the side. I'm
So
trying to think
you're thinking of you're thinking of South America. Portugal is west of Spain.
not even close. Fail me in geography right now.
You're
There. I was thinking South. Well, you said, well,
thinking
I was talking Brazil, and then you said Portugal. I'm like, I don't think are those next to each other? Are they not?
because the Portuguese colonized Brazil. That was
Yes.
the thing. That's why they speak Portuguese there. But and we went to a Portuguese soccer game. So the only European soccer game was FC Porto, which I think has an amazing team name, the Dragons. And it was awesome. I mean, like I have a scarf in my office. Um, I painted. They were outside the stadium. They had people like painting your face, so I got my face painted for the game. My wife was like, "You're an idiot! Like I can't believe you did that." But I wanted to truly be invested
Yes.
in the Dragons, and they did win the game. So I think there was a little bit of my cheering and exuberance for that, which made it happen.
So do we think we can get Jacksonville fans to start painting their face too?
I think we should do it. I mean, it was a little. It was just a little line, like a blue line and a white line.
See, I want like the full face paint where it's like down. We can get blue and red.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But why not? Why don't we do that? We have face painters every Sunday for the kids. Why don't we just do that for all the fans?
Why not?
Yeah, I like that. I'll pass that on. See how that goes.
See if we can get a promotion for it. Maybe you get a free hot dog or something. Face painted, free hot dog.
Yeah.
We'll talk to Harold about that. We'll see what we can.
Mm-hmm. I think he's listening. I think he listens to the podcast. So,
Perfect.
yeah.
Wow. He'll be ready. He'll be like, all right, hot dogs, here we go.
Who is the most talkative person? Like, see, we talked about people who maybe don't speak English over on first base. Who is the most talkative that comes to mind that like you don't even have to say anything. They just get there and they're just chatting up a storm. Anybody come to mind?
Yeah, former Marlin, Jesus Aguilar.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
when he was in Gwinnett this last year or 2 years ago, one of the, I think was he?
I think it was last year.
Maybe it was last year. But
Mm.
he is a chatty feller. Oh my goodness, he can talk, and he's talking to the dugout, talking to the pitcher, talking to the shortstop. I mean, he doesn't steal any bases. Maybe here every once in a while, but it's not like he's going anywhere. He's playing. He's playing baseball and he's hanging out, having a good time, and he's just always chatting to the first base coach, chatting to me. He. I think that is by far the most talkative person.
How many career stolen bases would you guess that Jesus Aguilar has? I'm curious what your answer will be. He's
I'm gonna
played,
say
by the way, he's played 10 years in the major leagues, 795 games, so a lot of time.
final answer 4.
One.
Man, I gave him too much credit.
And
You think it was a backside? Can we get a video of it? You think it was like a backside where the guy takes off and he just, snakes second?
I'm gonna find the game. It came in 2022 with the Marlins.
Oh,
July 5th, they were playing the Angels, a close game, 2-1. So it wasn't even like it could have been defensive indifference, and it wasn't. Like he was stealing the base. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. It was the bottom of the first inning. He stole a base. Oh, you know who it came against? Noah Syndergaard, who's like notorious for being terrible holding on runners.
you know what I think is interesting? I think with the new rules, the clock and the step off,
Yeah.
like me being a guy that's never stole bases, like, and now you're seeing guys in the minors that are fast that are taking advantage of that, and they're stealing 100 bases. Like they're stealing all the time. Guys are always running. I think that makes it so much more exciting. I think it's just the movement, the pace of the game, because like even a couple of scenarios here or there, you take third, like maybe it's first and second, one out, and you're like, uh-oh, all right, first and second, one out, need to get out of double play. You take third, and now it's second and third, one out. Changes the whole aspect of the at-bat. The pitcher's like, uh-oh, now I got to change what I'm thinking. I'm not just trying to get a ground ball. I'm trying to, do different stuff. I think just the pace of that game, almost like I miss like baseball, like and I hate to say it, I miss like college baseball because college baseball was played like it was in, the 80s and the 70s, where it's like, especially on the West Coast, you bunt, you're going to get a guy over, you're going to try to win the game. And if you win it 2-1, great, you won the game. We're not trying to blow teams out 15-0 and, pump up strikeouts and do all that kind of stuff. Like it's like you are winning the game, at least in the minor leagues.
So your first 3 seasons in the minors, you had 11 stolen bases total.
Mm-hmm.
Last year you had 24. Is that the new rules? I mean, is it just as simple as you've got 100%. Extra few inches? Okay.
Yes, 100%. Well, like I said, I lost a bunch of weight. So running wise, I'm feeling faster. I trained to be faster. But the thing is, I feel like I practiced it a lot. And I feel like I have a really good sense of like jumping clocks or jumping looks. Like a lot of guys, especially the younger pitchers, don't know how to hold guys on. And they'll just get locked in on the plate. And all of a sudden the clock winds down to 2, winds down to 1. And I'm like, I'll take off. I don't care. But I don't usually straight steal where it's like I'm at and then I just go. Like it's like momentum, momentum, momentum. If I don't hit it, go right back. Like it's no problem.
So you're watching the clock and the pitcher, in other words.
Correct. Yes. If I notice the clock, if I'm like, wow, he's holding for a long time, I'll check the clock real quick because it's pretty much in my vision. If I'm watching the pitcher plus the clock, like I'll watch the clock and I'll be like, oh my goodness, it's 3 or 2 seconds. Like now might be a good. If he's looking at me with 3 or 2, right when he turns his head, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Because granted, if he does that and he goes here and then turns his head back to the plate and then he picks off the second, I'm toast. I'm probably picked off. But that's kind of the risk you take, especially when you're stealing that kind of stuff. Especially when you're trying to work clocks, you're trying to work looks, everything like that.
And these clocks are in the same spot every ballpark, right? It's not just in Jacksonville. I have a really good look at it. It's everywhere. It's going to be in that.
There's one behind. So like behind home plate, there's one on either side, and then there's one out in center field.
Yeah.
And so I can see it all the time. First base, it's a little bit harder to jump the clock. Second base is where I usually do it the most.
And even if there are guys who, like with this clock thing, okay, I could take off here. Are there guys that they're so quick to the plate, or maybe catcher has an amazing arm that even if you've got that clock thing, you're not going to test it? Or you're willing to
scenarios. There's certain scenarios. Down by 1, down by 2, and I'm the tying or winning run.
Right.
If we're down by 8, something like that. Usually my sweet spot is like 3 or 4 runs. We're up by 3 or 4, down by 3 or 4, something like that. Try to get things moving. That's kind of my sweet spot to take those, but I am not going to push it if I don't have to because my goal is not to steal bases. My goal is to score. And so if it takes me a couple of batters, I'm like, oh, it's 2 batters in and there's 2 outs and 2 strikes. I'm probably going to go because if he swings through it, I'm safe. If he puts it in play, I'm scoring. So like there's certain times that you really realistically want to steal. And if you're, a little league coach or high school coach listening to this, like you have to be smart. You're not just running all the time.
Right.
Because realistically, if you get thrown out more often than not, which is most likely going to happen with a lot of the guys, like you want to pick your spots and pick where you want to go while still being aggressive. Because that's what I do. I just pick my spots. It's like, let's see, I played 130 games, so I'm stealing 1 bag every 10 games, something like that.
One every 7 or so.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 1 every 7 games. So I try to get 1 bag a week, essentially. 1 bag, 2 bags. I'll sneak it in there. It might be the first day, and then I won't steal for the rest of the week. Or maybe I steal 3 in a week.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, take second, take third, and then the next guy, they have me going, and they have my hops, whatever it is. I'm just gonna shut it down.
Do you have a green light?
Yes.
Did you have to earn that, or have you always had that?
No, I asked the coaches. I'm like, I just want to be better all the way around. I'm gonna start stealing bases. He's like, all right, cool. I'll let you go until you get thrown out enough that I have to stop you.
Really?
Thankfully, I didn't get thrown. I think I got thrown out once. I think I was 24 for 25 or something like that. 26.
Yeah, 24 for 26. That's amazing. Once in Jacksonville, once in Pensacola.
Wonder when I got thrown out in Jackson. Oh, I remember that one, and I was totally safe too. He missed the tag by a bunch, and I was like, "That's not it." I don't argue very often. When I argue, I'm right. I'm right when I argue. I won't argue. I won't argue very much. If I don't argue, you got me. Good. I'll walk back to the dugout. No problem.
That's true. You are, even if on a cold strike 3. I never see you talk to an umpire.
Nope, not usually. Sometimes I'll say something if it's like a first pitch strike, and I'm like, that's not it, and he'll just say back to me, "Yep, that was there." I'm like, "Oh, I know. I know you think it was there. It wasn't. but I know you think it was there, but I'm not going to challenge it because it was too close.
All right, that's one more question on the challenge.
Okay.
What is that like? What's the strategy there? Do they set something like, hey, we don't want to blow these too early, or are there guys who are so bad at challenging that they're not allowed to challenge, or are there guys who are so good? What is that situation like?
There was a couple guys that I remember in Jacksonville that Brownie was like, you guys are not allowed to challenge ever. Do not challenge. You cannot challenge. If you do challenge, use all three in the first at bat, and then we're just done with them because we would never ever get them right. And so, at least I remember that conversation. But I don't know. I think I'm unsuccessful. I think I'm over 3 on challenges. I don't think I've gotten any right. But I know the pitcher has challenged and been wrong. So I always like when that happens.
I feel like catcher should always challenge, not the pitcher.
Yes, correct. Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't know. I think it should be implemented in Big League Baseball. I think the challenge system would be awesome. The actual auto zone, like automatic zone, not so much. I think that takes too much of the human, game part umpires out of it. I think the umpires should be able to call the zone. But if player, like, I don't know, the guy reaches for one and it's like, oh, I don't think that's a strike, I'm going to challenge it. And of course they're wrong or right based on the automatic zone, then yeah, that's fine. Especially with how they adjust it based on your height. But
a lot of players said the same thing to me last year. Brian Miller, who had a great career, just retired in particular, had said that he felt like he loved the challenge system, hated just the straight automatic zone that we get half the games in AAA. Speaking of hitting, I think it's time to get to our guest, Greg Colbrunn.
We are here with Greg Colbrunn. He is a 12-year big leaguer. He has also been a big league coach. He has also been in multiple different organizations. He has been the epitome of living, breathing, everything baseball. He is an awesome baseball mind. We have some awesome personal connections with him. And he is personally one of my favorite hitting coaches. And I'm really excited to have him on. Greg, I'm going to start the interview really, really quick. When we're talking about your long career of both coaching, playing, everything like that, I kind of want to start off, where has been you've had a lot of different job titles. You've been a rover for the Marlins. You have been a hitting coach. You've been a bench coach. You've been a lot of different things. You've been a player. What has been your favorite position in baseball in your long tenure of it?
No question. Playing. You enjoy playing the most. And I was fortunate enough to play for, a long time or whatever, but playing is probably the apex or whatever you want to say about my career. But I do really enjoy coaching. So that's kind of why when I was coming up through the minor leagues, I was like, okay, I'm going to get my education. I didn't go to college. So I kind of bypassed college, started my pro career when I was 18. And I was like, okay, first year struggling. I'm like, okay, think about what could have been. I got to that point and it's like, well, this is my career. I'm going to learn as much as I can, and whatever happens, happens. And I can always go back to school, but I'll probably be in baseball the rest of my life because I always just love baseball, whatever. So I've been fortunate enough, and I've been in baseball ever since I was 18 years old. I am now 54. So it's been a long ride.
That's awesome. So one of the things that I do, especially as a young player, I really indulge myself. So I have an off-season job. I'm an instructor at a baseball facility. And as I'm instructing these 11, 12, 16, 18-year-olds, I'm learning more about hitting and more about how to develop myself. Did you ever have an experience like that while you were either playing or coaching that you were like, oh man, I wish I would have known this then? Or as you were playing, wow, I can't wait to use this, when I go and start training my next at bat, something like that.
Yes. And the way we did it back then when we were playing or whatever, we would talk to each other. We'd always sit there and watch each other's swings and all that. And, you get in these conversations, and I've played with some really good hitters, but to hear them talk about hitting and what their thought process is doesn't always match up for what they're doing. But we're always messing around, or you're watching people on TV and, watching games or something. And let me stand like that. Let me stand like this. I mean, this went on throughout our careers. We're always trying to imitate different people. And sometimes, okay, this is the way they think about it. Let me think about it that way. Okay, let me try this, and how it would adapt to your swing. and it's a feel. I know you like to feel stuff, and it's all about creating a different feeling. Okay, that feels pretty good right there. Or how does that look? You know, you're always trying to get feedback, but reality is you got to feel it, you know. And I think you're the same way. Spending enough time with you where, you know, you try different things and you're like, nope, that's not it. Ooh, that might be it right there. You know what I mean? That felt great. Or that's it right there. Okay, let's go with that. So that's, you know, when you're coaching or whatever, now looking back at it, that's one of the experiences I think one of my good suits as a coach, because I tried everything. And I've talked to a million, you know, all the different hitters I played with and coached, and this worked for them, but this didn't work for them. You could try different things. So that's one of the things, you know, as you've experienced or whatever. So does that answer your question?
Yes, that was awesome. Yep.
So Colby, you know, Troy referenced the long career you had. Several different organizations, obviously coming up in the minor leagues with Jacksonville for a time too. Do you coach any way that, man, I really liked this hitting coach or this manager? Do any of those people from your journey as a player influence you now as a coach?
Yes. One of the best coaches I've ever had was my first couple of years I signed. I was 18. I thought I was, you know, I could hit. I get out and go play pro ball a couple of years. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm getting my butt handed to me because I'm just up there swinging. Like in high school, you know, I was good. I could make contact, I had quick hands and did everything. But then you get in pro ball and it's not quite that easy. So the first couple of years, you know, you're used to in high school, you have a lot of success or whatever. But then in pro ball, you're hitting 250, 260, 270. And it's like, wow, this is really hard. And then after my beginning my third year, the Marlin or the Expos hired a guy named Jay Ward. Yeah, he came in and was our minor league hitting coordinator. And he had come from the Yankees and the Reds, and he was a longtime manager, hitting coach, respected, you know. And he came in and taught all of us. I mean, I still got some really good friends that I came up with. And to a man, he helped us so much. It was probably the most influential coach we had in the minor leagues or in all of our careers. And he just simplified things. And it wasn't the same thing for everybody, but there was just some basic, you know, concepts that he taught us. And it was like, wow. And then that's kind of what I based, you know, my career. Whenever I was struggling after that, kind of go back to, okay, what's my three main keys? All right, let me see if I can do this. And you learn more from different coaches and different players. But the basis of still what I believe it all reverts back to Jay. So that was, and Jay, when I was coaching, when I first started coaching, I remember interesting story, a guy named Gary Denbo. He was the Marlins farm director, vice president at 4 or 5 years ago. But before that, since I lived in Charleston, I figured I'd get done playing, take a year off and coach here in Charleston, South Carolina. They're minor league team, A-ball team here, and they happen to be with the Yankees. So our pitching coordinator with the Marlins right now is Scotty Alden. So me and Scotty, we played together in Minnesota. And so one day my daughter's going to school downtown, and I went down early to go say hi to Scotty. He goes, so what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to coach here in Charleston, you know, take a year off. So he goes, well, Denbo's come, Gary's coming next week. I'll tell him about you. I was like, please, I'd love to work here, you know, because I didn't really know anybody with the Yankees. So Gary calls me up. He says, I'll be in town in a couple of weeks. And why don't you come down, talk, or interview or whatever. So I go down there and talk with him. And he starts asking me about my playing days or, you know, how I developed what I think of hitting and all that. So as I'm telling him about the story about this guy named Jay Ward. And I had no idea that Jay was Gary's mentor. It was like, I was like, holy cow. If I could have said one name, Gary Denbo, it would have been Jay Ward, because Gary idolized the guy. That was like Gary's adopted father. So it kind of opened the door for me to start coaching here with the Yankees in Charleston with the Yankees. And I was with the Yankees for, you know, a number of years. So, but Jay was probably the best hitting coach I've had.
You said something interesting a few moments ago about what it's like to coach Troy. Obviously, coming back to your influence from Jay, and Troy is a big feel guy. And Ryan LaVarnway told us something really cool. I thought, at least, Troy, that He said the light bulb turned on when he was working with you because he had to write himself an email or letter or something about trends and all these things that he felt. Like, how do you figure out what makes each guy tick? Because what makes Troy Johnston tick is different than Ryan LaVarnway. It's different from Mike Trout. It's different from all these other guys you've coached. And clearly, you're held in high esteem. What is it that you do to try to figure that out for each guy?
Well, for me, it's like you got to get to know the guy. And I've known Troy for, 4 or 5 years now. And when Troy first signed, I remember him always asking questions. But Troy can hit. Troy's always hit it. Everywhere he's ever been, he's hit. I mean, he hit high school, probably little league. You're always probably a really good hitter, weren't you, Troy?
Every once in a while, here or there, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a feel for Troy. But so that's why, he'd always ask questions. So I remember one time in the cage, we were in the far cage, as you might not even remember this. I'm flipping to you. And you asked some really good questions about, and I'm like, that's a good questions. But it wasn't about mechanics. It was about, okay, how does that look? It feels really good. I'm like, it's coming through the zone. You got length, you're short to the ball. How's it feel? I think I asked you more questions than you ended up asking me. And you kind of answered your own questions, which is, as a hitter, my job as a coach is trying to get you to repeat what you do on a daily basis. But if I'm telling you what to do all the time, that usually doesn't work out so well. So for the hitters, it's like I ask a lot of questions as a hitting coach. And with LaVarnway, I remember he was like, he had wrote an Ivy League guy. So get LaVarnway a lot smarter. He thinks he's really smart. But he had told me the story about him writing an email. And it's like, well, have you opened the email that you sent yourself a couple of years ago when you were hitting 35 homers a year? And he's like, no. I go, well, you need to go back and open it up and what you were thinking at the time. But it was a great story because he was smart enough or aware enough to write down what he's thinking at the plate and how you're feeling, and then have something to revert back to all the time. So when you start going through a slump or something, okay, what got me back on track? Is it mechanics? Is it a thought process? Am I tired? Am I, okay, learn how to evaluate your own AB. So you got to get to know the player first and then help him help himself, if that makes sense.
It's a good way to look at it. I can't wait to take that to my instructing classes, this next couple weeks. Perfect. I got a week and a half to work on it.
But it's different though, isn't it? Because your kids are paying you, they want information, but it's like the kids, for them to repeat it on a daily basis or to learn, they have to learn how to kind of make their own adjustments.
Correct. So with my older group, so we have we call it the premier group. We have, I think, 9 Division I, 10 Division I commits just on this one team as position players. Like it is in Washington. In Washington, it is a premier program. Like it is unbelievable how good these kids are. I wish I was as flexible and as athletic. The only difference is, of course, up here versus what they're doing. And so what you're talking about is like getting them to ask questions, because our big thing right now is we have 3, 4 professional like instructors that are just working here during the off season. And our big thing is when we leave, how do we get these kids to teach themselves to do these things? And exactly what you're saying is all of this stuff is reverting back to how do we get these kids to take on maybe writing themselves notes, remembering what they were doing in November or December or January when they were working with us versus just doing lessons. You can hammer 1,000 baseballs off a machine, but exactly like what you're saying, that's the stuff that I take in and I'm like, wow, that's like really, really big stuff, because it's a step forward, not only as a player, but as a coach and everything like that as well.
Yeah, it's like, okay, 2 months from now when they're struggling, what do they have to revert back to?
Mm-hmm.
I was raking in the off season, hitting off a machine, everything felt great. Well, now this guy's mixing in a changeup, and I'm in between. Is it my swing? Is it my timing? Am I opened up? Am I long? Am I short? Am I not getting rotated? Am I over rotated? Am I cut myself off? I mean, you don't know, but you got to simplify it. And that's like, I think that's one of the biggest keys to teaching like young hitters, simplifying it and knowing what you do well instead of, having to revert back to it's all mechanics, and a lot of times it is mechanics, but mentally it's because you're putting yourself in a bad spot.
Yes.
And then it ends up being mechanics.
So if you had one thing to say, so you've coached, like I said, you've coached for a long time. And if you have, we might have some young listeners and we might have some, older listeners. What would you say is the most important thing? Like if you can narrow it down, no matter what, you said simplify, but if you can narrow it down, like one tip or one advice from, an awesome coach like you that you could spread out throughout many age groups, what would it be?
I mean, I would say rhythm and timing. I mean, any drill you can do that promotes rhythm and timing, because hitting is probably 80% timing, rhythm. And how do you get timing with your rhythm? Whether you got a leg kick, toe tap, nose stride, there's got to be some kind of loading mechanism, but you're always trying to work on your timing, because that's 80-90% of the battle is being on time. Because what happens if you're not on time? Does your perfect swing that you manufactured or that you've worked your butt off come out if you're not on time? No. So, I mean, it's good to work on your mechanics, but how do you work on your timing? That's the toughest question. It's catch-22. But it's off a machine. It's kind of hard to replicate off a machine with timing, unless the machines have gotten easier. But with the instructor, whoever's feeding the machine, you have to have some kind of rhythm, some kind of, when the pitcher takes the ball out of his glove, okay, does that instigate my load? And how do I control my front side going forward? How do I control my stride and stay, where I can fire at the ball over and over and being more on time?
If you guys are watching this and you are in the baseball world, clip that little scene right there, because that was absolute gold. I love it. I agree with every single word you're saying. Please go use that. That is awesome.
Okay, I got questions for you. Is it okay if I ask you questions now
Oh,
that you're coaching?
I didn't know I was the interview.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Okay, what's up?
So, are you guys using a lot of technology at the place you're coaching at or helping out at, instructing at?
The only technology we had was a hit tracks. That was it. It wasn't calibrated and it wasn't really working. So we don't use a ton of technology, but the pitchers have TrackMan and they have all that kind of technology. For me, I go off of a little bit more old school. I go off the sound. I go off of the ball flight. I go off of how it, asking them how it feels, like that kind of thing. We don't have a lot of technology, at least at this instructional facility. The other one that I work at, or I have worked at, is very, very technologically advanced.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. It's a give and take.
Okay. And I mean, I'm not saying that it's bad or good, but the biggest thing is, okay, how do you adapt it to real world? How do you adapt it to a game? And that's one thing with the technology is it's not advanced enough where, we all can swing really good in the cages or during batting practice, but then we get in the game and our swing breaks down and we don't have the technology to sit there and all right, what am I doing wrong? It's where's it? Go ahead.
It's hard nowadays because a lot of kids. So if you look at the younger, we're talking about the instructor side. If you're looking at the younger kids, the way you get recruited and the way you get scouted is by putting up, and I've been saying this for years, you put up a significant tool. And with hitting, it's foul off a ball, foul off a ball, foul off a ball off the machine, 112. And you just post that 112, all of a sudden all these schools are like, oh my goodness, he just hit a ball 112. We got to get this guy in, we got to see him. But then he gets into a game and it's change up, curveball, fastball, fouled off, change up in the dirt, swing, strikeout. Or first pitch fastball, he's already ready for it, 115 off the wall, something like that. And so having those loud tools is kind of what we're developing because that's what schools are looking for. But on top of that, once you already have that tool, now we have to teach you how to hit. Now we have to teach you how to play and that kind of thing. And so a lot of those guys, it's either you already know how to hit and you're trying to get to that big tool, or you already have that one tool. Now we have to figure out how to hit. So you get there's so many different guys like that in the younger ages that they only see on social media of all these kids hitting these nukes at, they're 15 years old and they're hitting at 110 or something like that. And I'm like, guys, those guys most likely have one good swing and it only works on one pitch. Now we're going to teach you how to hit and surpass those guys over the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because they're going to be no-name guys because they only have one tool. They can only do one thing. You guys are going to be able to do it.
That's the biggest thing is what does all good hitters have in common? They have really good timing. You know, they can be not on time and still get hits. You know, mechanically they got good hands, but all good hitters have really good timing because they're on time more often than bad hitters. So, which enables them to get the ball in the air, to hit line drives, to hit, you know, hit the ball forward instead of swinging and missing and controlling your body and all that. But it's like, I'll take a hitter with good timing as opposed to good mechanics any day.
Yes, 100%. Because you can fix mechanics, you can fix things. Timing's hard to fix.
Yes, timing is probably coaching for what many years I've been doing. Timing is like the hardest thing to get through. It's like, how do you teach timing? I don't know.
So do you think that the timing of your, like everything that you worked on? So I'm looking at your career stat line. First off, congratulations on having a positive WAR, and not only a positive WAR, but a 6.9. That's incredible on your playing days. But a lot of guys nowadays, especially in the big league level, are not hitting. You have a career 289 batting average. They just don't hit like that anymore. Do you think there's less timing in big league baseball, in minor league? Do you think it's in professional baseball?
Well, I think it's, what are you rewarded for in the big leagues now? Hitting the ball out of the ballpark. So the mindset, generational mindset now, guys come in, exactly what we were talking about, big tool, hit the ball hard, hit the ball hard. But does that play? Would you rather hit 50 homers and you're not, okay, say you hit 35 homers, you get 600 at-bats in the major leagues, but you're hitting 160, but you're going to hit the ball hard 35 times and hit 35 homers. Are you going to get 600 at-bats to hit the 35 homers if you're hitting 150? No.
No.
You have to have productive outs. You have to put the ball in play. You have to be a hitter first. So I think that's the biggest thing to overcome right now is you got to be a good hitter first. You got to figure out how to get a hit. You know, that's one thing I respect so much about you is you're up there trying to figure out how to get a hit every day, every time you go to the plate. And I wish that was instilled more and more in the younger people is you go up there and you get, okay, there's a hole right there. I mean, you bunted this year. How many times have you bunted in your career? This year, they're giving you a hit. Why not take it? You know, then, okay, I got my hit. And then what happens your next AB? I already got one in the tank. You go up there so much more confident, but you can't quantify that. You can't put that in the equation. That's the biggest thing. You know, you get jammed and something falls in and your confidence level goes so much higher the next at bat, as opposed to whining out and you're mad. And okay, if I would have yanked it, or if I got in the air a little more, or if I would just hit it right here or something, you're screwed. But if that ball falls, all of a sudden you're a little bit more relaxed. So the bunting, I was more impressed with your bunting. I was like, damn, that's pretty good. I mean, but that's hitting though. You know what I mean?
West Coast baseball right there. They teach you how to bunt.
Yeah, but you never bunted before.
I can sack bunt. Sack bunt time, it's awesome, but drag bunt, never. I've always been too big and slow. Now I'm quick and gorgeously gorgeous.
Yeah, we'll go into that later.
Hey, Colby,
I mean, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say.
You won 2 World Series championships, and I'm curious, one as a player, one as a coach, is it different? And I will say the 2013 Red Sox led baseball in runs per game, slugging, on base percentage, OPS, extra base hits. So it was an offensive carry team that you obviously had a huge hand in as the hitting coach. Was it a different feeling 12 years earlier as a player? Because you talked about how that was still your favorite job to this day.
It was unbelievable experience being with the Red Sox. I mean, winning the World Championship, especially in Boston, no place like it. But as a player, you have more impact on the game. You have a chance to actually play in the game. As a coach, it's all about preparation. And I mean, I enjoy the games a lot as a coach because you're watching guys warm up, you know, what they have, you're helping hitters, you know, think through their at-bats, trying to get them in a good place for the next AB and things like that. But as a player, you're more concerned about yourself and how am I going to help the team or whatever. But with the Red Sox in 13, that was probably one of the most nervous, you know, meetings I probably had coached, 5, 6 years, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5, 6 years. And then I get the job with the Red Sox. And we go to spring training. They put together a good team, and the roster, front office did a great job filling some holes. But we were going to have a hitting meeting. I'm like, okay, what am I going to tell these guys? I've played, but I haven't played in 8 years, 9 years. I've been out of the big leagues, and half the team I don't know. They don't know me. I don't know them. So we go into the meeting. I was nervous. I'm like, okay, what am I going to tell them that nobody's ever told them? And it was like, all right. And I started looking at our lineup and who we had and all that. And it was like, okay, the front office went out and brought in like Victorino, Napoli, Johnny Gomes. They had David Ortiz, they had Pedroia, we had Ellsbury, we had Stephen Drew, who they went and got. And, assembled all these things. I was like, okay, if everybody just does what they normally do, I like our chances. So it was like, you don't have to do more than what you normally do. They had enough players with enough big league time and track records. Just be yourself. Don't try and be somebody you're not. Mike Napoli, just go hit your 240, 250 with 30 homers. Victorino, go hit, 270, 280 with 15, 16. JD or Steven Drew, go do what you normally do. Get healthy and see what you can do. Pedroia, hit 300, else hit 300, and you guys are going to hit some homers and all that, but don't try and do any more than you normally do. And that was like kind of set the tone where, nobody has to carry the team. And there wasn't a lot of holes in the lineup where, you're going to run through slow spots in the lineup because everybody was being a tough out. And they had the mantra, don't give away an at-bat, make the pitcher work, grind every at-bat out. And, I mean, we scored a lot of runs that year, and it was fun. And the first month, 2 months, people got into place, and then it just took off. And we had a really good, and Boston's a really good place to hit too. I mean, during the summer, once it warms up, ball carries pretty well there. But we had really good team, really good hitters, and we had starting quality pitchers, and the relief pitchers came in and developed their roles, and everything fell into place.
That's awesome. So living in Boston, I've heard that, of course, the fans are unbelievable. But the actual city itself, did you live in the city while you were there?
Yes.
Okay, so how different is that lifestyle living in the Northeast versus living now in Florida or in South Carolina and Florida?
Oh, I've never lived in a city. That's one thing. When I got the job, my wife went up there, she found a condo or whatever, and it was perfect. She did an unbelievable job going up there, finding a place to live, but we were in the city. It was like, I couldn't walk to a stadium. It was probably about 3.5 miles. It was Fenway's on one side. I lived Financial District, which is over by the north end, Boston Harbor Hotel, the condo. So it was right on the water, beautiful place. But it was so cool living in Boston. I mean, first month, April, May, it was cold, but the Financial District was right across the street, just people everywhere. Faneuil Hall, so much history there. And then going there, it was unique living in a city. The first time I ever lived in a big city and just seeing what it's like on a daily basis. But then, every day I'm waking up, going to field at 11:30. So we'd have some time off, a day game. We ate at the North End, which is really good Italian food. Every time we had time off or whatever, or the night off. So it was a unique experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So when you're walking through the city, were you as famous as Justin Bieber? You got your hood up, your sunglasses on, and you're walking through the city like this, hoping nobody recognizes you. Did you ever have any fan experiences while you were playing that somebody, like, it doesn't matter what city, Seattle, Toronto, whatever. But
no, I mean, to be honest, when I was in Boston, I was a hitting coach. I don't think I ever got recognized or whatever. But in Arizona, the funniest thing was I spent 4 years there. And then I sign a free agent. I go to Seattle. So that spring, I'm in Arizona, Phoenix, and all that. I got recognized more when I left than I ever did as when I was playing there. Remember when I was there in spring training with Seattle, I got recognized more, as I'm going to Seattle than I ever did as a Diamondback player. I'm like, that's about the only time, because I spent, 4 years there, and we had some really good teams with the Diamondbacks those 4 years. I mean, we won the World Series in 2001, 99 we won the division, 2000 we didn't make the playoffs. We had a good year though. And then 2002, we ended up losing to the Cardinals. So those 4 years we had some really good teams. We had really good offense. We had Randy Johnson, we had Schilling, we had really good pitching. So it was probably my favorite place to play.
It had to be, just from a player's perspective, it had to be just awesome making sure that you can just have a house, have some living, and you can go to the spring training complex right down the street, and then you can go downtown and you can go to your job. It's like everything's
that
all
was
here in Phoenix.
So after my first year there, my wife, we ended up buying a house towards the end of my second year. And but then we would rent out in the wintertime. So our spring training was in Tucson because that was before they put the complex, the Salt River. So we would rent it out till like April 1st. So it would be rented for like 5 months in the off season, and then it wouldn't live in it during the summer. So I kind of had it screwed back asswards, I guess I could say, where I lived in, Charleston, which is beautiful during the summer, and so I live in Charleston in the winter, and then the nicest place to live probably in America during this winter is probably Arizona.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I'd rather be in Charleston during the summer and Phoenix in the winter, but I had it backwards.
Your reverse snowbird is what I like to call it.
Yes, that's exactly. It's that it's get unbelievable hot in Phoenix during the summer. Ooh.
When you played for the Diamondbacks, did they have the same stadium where it was like air conditioned and don't like everything
Yes.
like that? Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
so that
was brand new. And every year, I mean, they used to close the roof like 1 o'clock and cool it off. And then by the time I left there 4 or 5 years, 6 years later, they didn't close that roof till like 4:15, right at BP time. Then they would shut it, and it'd be hot. But it was like the AC bill, I think, kept catching up, and they kept, okay, we're not going to keep it cool for 3 hours. So it was awesome. I mean, it was a really good stadium, and I know they've gone through different proposals about where they're going to move because they haven't really done much to the stadium since it was built in '98. So I think they got that squared away where they are doing some renovations and updating it over the last, it's been 25 years now, close to it, 26 years.
Now they got that extra bonus pay from being in the World Series, so I guess they got to spend it. They got to spend it a little bit on Corbin Carroll, but that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. But they've done a good job. Last year was a surprise. I was so happy. Torrey Lavella, we were on the staff in Boston together, and the GM was assistant GM in Boston, Mike Hazen, and they've done a really good job out there putting together really good teams on somewhat of a limited budget. When I was over there, they went out and spent heavily, and we didn't have like the highest payroll, but a lot of the contracts were backloaded, so they wanted to win right away, and we ended up doing that. But I think it cost them in the like mid 2000s and all that. A lot of those contracts that they still had to pay came fruition and kind of put them in a bind. So, but it was fun. They packed the house. I mean, we had 35,000 people every night, so it was crowded and exciting.
One of the really fascinating things about your career, there's two like really significant events in American history that collide almost exactly with where you are in your playing days. The first being '01, you guys are playing the New York Yankees in the World Series literally weeks after 9/11. You've told me some really cool stories about this. What do you remember about playing in Yankee Stadium at that time, specifically after that raw event?
I remember, so after 9/11, they shut everything down for 10 days or whatever. And we were playing pretty well. So we were going to make the playoffs. I don't think we had clinched or whatever, but we had a really good team going. But so we make the playoffs, and we beat the Cardinals 5 games. We were lucky to win that. And then we beat the Braves in 5 or 6. We matched up really well against the Braves. Our hitters, they had Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, 3 Hall of Famers. But the core of our team, we had righty-lefty lineups, and we matched up really well with the Braves offensively. And our pitchers kind of handled their lineup pretty easy when you had Unit, Schilling, and Batista, and you got like your chances. So we handled the Braves pretty easy. And then playing in New York, we opened up against them, and we smoked them the first 2 games. We didn't smoke them, but we beat them pretty, it wasn't a lot of drama those first 2 games. And then we go to New York, and it's like, all right, we get there, and it was weird because we had a day off. We went to Ground Zero, which I'll never forget. We get off the bus. They had a team bus. We went there, meet with some of the families, and get the tour of, if you remember, a yellow tent that was on the middle of Ground Zero. And we had the guy that was in charge of the site, and he gives us a briefing. And we're sitting there right in the middle of Ground Zero, and it's like the smell, just the magnitude of everything. It was just like unbelievable. So, and then we had the game the next day, and we had practice that night. As we're practicing, you could see snipers on the Secret Service was doing like a dry run or whatever, coordinating, because President Bush was throwing out the first pitch in Game 3. So that was kind of eerie, where you're looking like, what are we getting ourselves into? I mean, is there going to be another attack, or what's going on? And we get to the field in Game 3, and everybody's got to go through metal detectors. We're like, why are we going through a metal detector? Everybody, the security was so high, and the crowd itself was kind of, you're expecting the Yankee Stadium crowd to be raucous, blaring, huge home field advantage, and it was subdued up until probably 7th, 8th inning. Then they started getting into it, but for the first 8 innings of Game 3, which we were winning, and they came back, took the lead, and all that, and then Game 4 and 5, which they sucked too. That wasn't. I could have done without those 2 games where they hit the home runs, tie it up, and extra innings and all that. But we could have won it in 4, best of 5, because we had leads in all 5 of the first 5 games. And then Game 6, we blew them out. And then Game 7, we won it in the bottom of the 9th. So it was such a unique situation just being there. And I think everybody was expecting the Yankees to win, especially how they beat us in New York coming back. They were the team of destiny because of what happened on 9/11 and with the towers and the terrorist attack and all that. But we were resilient, and, we bounced back in Game 7 and Game 6 and 7. And it was, it's still, I get chills thinking about, the way we came back in Game 7 and running around. You won a World Series. It was unique, especially in that manner.
That Game 7 is so crazy. You got Randy Johnson coming out of the bullpen on 1 or 2 days rest or something.
No, he pitched the night before.
He threw
80 pitches, because I was sitting there on the bench, because I didn't start that game. I didn't get in that game, but I'm sitting there on the bench, and he comes down. He's got his cleats on, and he comes and sits right next to me with his cleats. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? I'm going to bullpen in case they need me. I'm like, you started yesterday. You threw 80 pitches, pitched 5, 6 innings. He's like, I got the whole offseason to rest. I'm like, okay. And he sure enough went down there and came in and pitched the 9th inning, 8th, 9th, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like unbelievable. But that was Randy. Randy, God, he was good. I mean, he was by far I was fortunate enough. I played with the Braves for a couple of years, so I was around Glavine and Smoltz, Maddox, and then, but playing with Randy for those 4 years or whatever, he won the Cy Young all 4 years, by the way, which, you're lucky enough to play with one Cy Young Award winner, like the Marlins had Sandy a couple of years ago, who won the Cy Young. But imagine doing that for 4 years in a row and just being the most dominant pitcher in the National League. He was that good. I mean, he'd go out, strike out 14, 15, 3 hit, maybe give up a run or something, no runs, and throw a shutout and walk one guy. And it's like, oh boy, Randy. It wasn't like a career game. He had so many of those. It was unbelievable.
And you guys are losing it's not like it was tied. You're losing in the bottom of the 9th against the greatest closer of all time,
yes.
Mariano Rivera. I mean, what was that like? If you're going back in time to the dugout, the assignment here, either we score a run or more, or that this is it. And this is Rivera on the mound.
Yeah, and he struck out the side in the bottom of the 8th. He came in and punched out 5, 6, 7, or 4, 5, 6, and striking out the side. And I was like, okay, because I was on deck. Mark Gracie he was leading off, and I was going to hit second. And Gracie's like, "You taking a pitch?" I was like, "Hell no, I'm going to swing the first pitch, put it in. I'm going deep. Gracie gets a hit, so I don't hit. Damian comes out, puts down a bunt, and then they throw it away, which, so we have runners first and second. Then Jay comes out, Jay comes out, and I'm still on deck. Jay comes out the bunt, so I'm just sitting there, 3 straight at bats. I'm on deck for 3 straight at bats. And then Jay bunts it back to Rivera. He throws at the third, get the out, but Brocious never threw the ball at first, which, he wanted to get an out, but he probably could have turned 2, which would have changed the whole complexion of that inning. And then Tony Womack came out. He got a hit, and I was on deck because I was going to hit for counts at AB. So I was like 4 at bats. I was on deck, but I had a great seat there, seeing Tony, pulling his hand and line drive down the right field line. And next thing you know, the game's tied. You're like, holy cow, this is unbelievable. It was, I still replaying it in my mind. I'm like, oh my God. And then since the game was tied and we just ran through everybody on the bench, Counts came out to hit, and then he gets hit in the foot. And then bases loaded, 1 out. What do you do with the infield? If you ever play that scenario back, Torrey took a lot of heat because he didn't play like double play death, which they might have caught because Gonzo ends up hitting a little blooper. But it's like if he would have hit a slow rolling ground ball to second or short where he can't turn 2, you lose a game like that, a World Series game. So what do you do with the infield? Do you play him in? Do you play him back? It's still an age-old question, and they're neither one's wrong, neither one's right. So it just hoping that Gonzo ball fell in and that we're running on the field like you're in Little League or whatever, just running around hugging everybody and acting like a kid. And God, that was fun.
That's awesome. That's a perfect ending to the question. So I want to switch gears. I literally have chills just thinking because of course I've never been in that situation, but just reliving it through you was awesome. I wish I could have been there, either in the stands, in the dugout, whatever it was. Even just, I wish I could have just felt that energy, because everything that you're talking about is like literally exactly what athletes, what competitive people live for. Like that is the moments we live for. And so that is so
yes.
cool.
And like I can recall it. How many years it's been? We went back 20-year reunion back in 2001, 21 or whatever. And it's like I go back and do the fancy camp with the Diamondbacks. I didn't go this year because I'm had surgery or whatever. But usually go back there and there's usually like 5 or 6 of the players, and it's like being in the locker room 20 years ago with them. The same verbiage, same rags, same. And it was a tough clubhouse. It was, you think I'm sarcastic, you had to be like that to survive in that clubhouse, because we had a lot of, I remember in 2002, I got my 10 years in, which is a big deal as a player. If you're ever a player, 10 years in the big leagues, the date, everything. And I was so excited to get it. So I went and looked at the seniority list, because I'm like, hey, I got 10 years in the big leagues. And I go to look, and I'm like 12th or 13th on the list. This is 2002. And I'm like, well, that kind of put me in my place. We had some old people on that team. I mean, not old, but guys experienced. We had Mike Morgan had 23 years. We had, Finley had 15. Gonzo had 12. Matt Williams had 16. Jay Bell had 16. Guys don't play that long anymore, but we had a lot of veteran guys that had done a lot in this game, and everybody kind of put their egos to the side or whatever, and just whatever you need to do for the team, whatever role you need to accept, and go win.
Egos to the side. Egos to the side. Sarcasm to the front is what you're saying.
Oh yeah. Yes. Sarcasm to the front. Don't screw up. But I mean, that's the way you deal. You've been through it in your clubhouse with the same bunch of guys for 6 months now, and you become a family. And there's always an old joke in baseball. It's pick your own friends. How many more days till you pick your own friends? Because, the best friends I've made in baseball all come from, when I was coming up through the minor leagues, the guys I still stay in contact with. But, I still talk to them sporadically, guys on that team or whatever. But you don't always get along great with your teammates, socially. You do things with them off the field during the season or whatever, but you don't keep in touch with them. I I played for a lot of different teams or whatever, but I still have some good friends from over there. Damian Miller, he was one of my good friends. Council Craig, he's one of my good friends, and I keep in contact with them. But other than that, not on a weekly or monthly basis. Anybody else?
Awesome.
I have one more. I have one more, Troy, if that's all right. The other event that your career that's significant in this era of American history is the Boston Marathon bombing. You were the hitting coach. We talked about the 13 Red Sox. David Ortiz gives that big speech at Fenway Park.
Yes.
That ended up being the team of destiny because you guys win the World Series. What was it like to be, you talked about living in the city at that time. I mean, what was that like? And then having to go to work, and then that team doing what they ended up doing is incredible.
Yeah, that was, like you said, the bombing or whatever, because we play on Patriots Day. We had an 11 o'clock game. We're playing, I forget who we were playing. The Rays? I think we're playing the Rays. And we end up winning. Coming back, I think Nava had a big hit, Daniel Nava. And then we go to get on the bus because it's getaway day. As we're getting on the buses, we usually had like motorcycle cops would give us a escort to the stadium. So go on, get on the bus, and then you see the cops take off, the two motorcycle guys that usually give us our escort. And then somebody comes on and says there's been an incident at the end of at the parade, or not at the finish line on Boylston or whatever. And we're like, incident, bombing? And then you're trying to get on your cell phone, or sitting on the bus waiting to leave. And the cell phone network was so jam-packed, we couldn't pick up anything. So we didn't really know what was going on until a few people were getting on the bus and telling us, okay, on TV, I guess a couple bombs went off at the finish line for the marathon. We're like, you got to be kidding me. So we just stayed on the bus for another 45 minutes. And then they're like, okay, let's go to the airport. And it took us probably an hour and a half to get out of the city as we're seeing just chaos on the streets. I mean, we passed probably 25, 30 ambulances trying to get into the city, and it's just crazy. And then they stopped the airport, but they let us and the Rays take off, eventually. And then we get to Cleveland, and then you're watching CNN and you realize the magnitude of what actually happened, because we didn't really know, because one, we couldn't get on our phones or anything, watch any TV or get updates, and just getting what people are hearing from talking to other people. But going through that and then coming back 3 days later, we're in Cleveland, and then we come back around 11:30 because Cleveland's not too far of a flight. As we land, that's when they had the shootout in Watertown, when they found the brothers and they're shooting up, MIT at the gas station, and the manhunt and everything. And we were there, we landed at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. They went right by Fenway when they were chasing the two brothers in the car. And then, what in the world's going on here? It was so eerie. I mean, and then the next day, shelter in place. If you watch the movie Patriots Day, the whole city. I mean, as crazy as it was, what Troy was asking me about living in Boston, there's people everywhere. But then you go, that day they had, what was it, a Friday, shelter in place, where nobody was allowed on the streets. Taxis started going around 10 or 11, but there was nobody walking around. It was like a ghost town because everybody was in place and watching TV, and they ended up finding, because they couldn't find one of the brothers. The other brother had died, and they were searching for the other brother, and he ended up being in the boat or whatever of the house. And it was like, that's the strangest, coincidence just happened to be there during that. And it was, what in the world is going on here? Ooh. And watching the movie, you're like, oh my God, the way they pieced everything together, give it credit how they tracked everything down and deciphered all the clips from everything and put everything together that quickly. But just the presence. And then, we went to the hospital as a team, players, coaches, and all that, went to the different hospitals and just saw I think there was only 4 or 5 deaths, but 100 people losing limbs and all that. And we went to the the hospitals, and visited with them and all that. It was just so sad.
Well, on a happier note, I'm going to change it just a little bit. Okay, so with every guest that we bring onto our show with Turn 2 with Scott and Troy, we play a little game right at the end. I don't know if you know anything about this, but we call it plate appearance. So it is a trivia game. You're going to give 10 questions. For every first question I give you, it's going to be worth a single. Second question is going to be worth a double. Third question is going to be worth a triple. Then you're going to go back to the fourth question, which is going to be a single. Fifth question, double. Sixth question, triple. If you get to the 10th question, it's worth a home run. But if you get 3 questions wrong, you are pretty much out of the game, and that's how many runs you scored. Right now, we have 2 on the leaderboard, and we have a 3-run and a 0-run. So how do you think your trivia is going to play here?
What's the trivia on?
Baseball.
Like modern day baseball?
A little bit of both.
Old time baseball?
It's a little bit of both. I think
Mariner baseball, Seattle baseball, Washington.
No, not any Seattle baseball.
Gonzaga baseball.
Yes, Gonzaga baseball. Do you know anybody that went to Gonzaga? That's the first question.
2. I know 2 players.
2 players.
Okay, you knew the other one not very well though. He's no longer a member, right? Rondo, what was his name?
Oh,
the catcher.
Durando.
Yeah.
And then Gunnar Schubert. Do you remember him?
Nope.
Oh, all right. Well, that's another guy that went to Gonzaga. Marlins, they love Gonzaga guys.
I don't know why.
Fair. Okay, so are you ready for your first question?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. All right, who was the 2023 home run leader in the MLB?
Ohtani.
We got our first out. I really was hoping. Yep, Matt Olson.
Really?
Yeah, Matt Olson.
Okay.
53,
yeah.
54, something like that.
I was busy coaching during the season to pay attention to Major League Baseball.
All right, I will try to do something a little bit better then. All right, here we go. This one might be a little bit more. Okay, so which National League team has the most World Series championships?
National League team. Ooh. No, Cardinals?
Cardinals, and we got a double. Colby, you got a man on second. 1 out, runner on second. Okay.
Do I get it? Does he score if I get a hit here?
Yeah, because this is a triple.
Oh, okay.
So if you had a single, he would just go, first and third. But this one's a triple.
You would be on second.
Uh-huh. I would be on second. I would be scoring. Okay, let's see. All right, so this one's a little bit interesting. Of course, it's for a triple. Who are the only 2 players to win a league MVP, a World Series MVP, and an All-Star Game MVP?
Wow. I don't know. That's a tough question.
Give me one.
World Series MVP, League MVP, and what was it?
It was a All-Star MVP.
No, I don't know.
It is Brooks Robinson and Frank Robinson.
Wow. Anybody got that one right?
No. So I mix up the questions every single time. So
you're giving me tough questions. These are hard questions.
Tough questions. It's for.
I don't know how many people could get that right.
All right, perfect. You gave us good feedback. Okay, here I'll give you one. All right, this is for a single. What is the oldest ballpark in the MLB?
Ooh, Boston.
Perfect. All right, we got a single. So you got a runner on first and third, 2 outs. And for a double, here we go. Ooh, you like this one. Which player holds the record for the most MVPs?
Oh, God. My past baseball history in modern day, I'd say Bonds.
Perfect. That's why I said you'd like it. All right, we got a double. So you have 1 run scored. You have a runner on second and third now. And we're going to go back to the triple, which I know you love. All right.
So I'm in second place now because I did score a run.
You are in second place. You got 1 run on the board.
Nice. And there goes the shutout.
All right, here, I'll give you this one. Who is the only player to play for all 4 original expansion franchises and only those franchises.
And only those franchises. Holy cow. I know I played for 3 of them. Oh, God, I don't think I know this one. I don't know.
You know this one? The answer is Nolan Ryan.
Recent? All 4 expansion?
It's back.
I'm questioning your expansion. There's been like how many different expansion teams?
The original expansions.
You didn't say original.
Yes, I did. Would you?
Scott, did he say original?
Somebody paged me in the office. I didn't hear.
Okay, well,
trying to get me to do work.
We have this recorded because this is going to go under protest.
Original expansion teams. I don't even know if I could name the original expansion teams.
Well, let's see. It was the Astros, the Oakland A's, No, not the Oakland A's?
No.
Okay, who was... Well, I'm trying to think of who Nolan Ryan played for.
The Mets. Came up with the Mets.
That's what it was. Mets, not A's.
Mets, Astros, which was the end, Rangers, and Angels.
All right.
You want to give him another one? Give him another triple?
I want to give him a home run shot. I want to give him a home run shot because he's technically got 3 outs. I want to give him 1. Okay.
I don't get a mulligan.
You're gonna get a mulligan on this one. This is for a 3-run home run. All right, you got to run around second and third, 3 outs. We'll give you 4 outs on this one. Okay. So this is a question about the hosts. What 3 sports did Troy play in high school?
Did you just refer to yourself in the third person?
I'm running this interview here.
I was watching Seinfeld last night. That's why I brought that up. Baseball, obviously.
Okay.
Basketball?
No basketball. No basketball. Can you give me one more?
You didn't play football. I can't see you playing football.
I did play football.
What position did you play?
I played wide receiver. I could never figure out. I was always going to be the quarterback, but I couldn't figure out how to throw it after playing baseball all summer. So,
okay. You played football, baseball, and
wrestling.
You wrestled?
I wrestled. My dad is a wrestling coach, and he's been for almost 20 years. So I wrestled.
I did not know that. Wow.
See, that's why it's a fun question.
What weight class were you in?
I was about 170, but I wrestled. I was fluctuated from about 170 to 175, so I wrestled 182.
What was your favorite sport?
I really liked golf. I'm a much better golfer than I am at anything else.
How about wrestling? Were you a good wrestler? That your dad was a coach?
I was fine. I never worked too hard in it. That was the only problem. So
Did you make it to like states?
No, I never made it to the state. I made it to the league tournament, and that was about it. I only wrestled for like a year and then a year and a half, something like that.
Okay.
So.
I wrestled 1 year, like in 7th or 8th grade. And it was like, I like playing basketball better. It was during the same time. So
I stink at basketball. but in junior high, I dominated in junior high because I was bigger than everybody. But high school is a little bit different. Okay. So as I wrap this up, I have my one last question for you. I asked this to all of our guests. Give me your favorite quote of all time, if you have one.
Wow, there's so many. Probably Yogi Berra.
Okay.
No, what is it? 80% of hitting is mental, or what is it? 80% of hitting is mental, and the other half is
mental. The other 5 is whatever. Is
other half.
The other half is physical, or something like that. I don't even know my favorite quote.
I'm gonna look it up for you.
Scott? What's your favorite quote?
I had one. This is gonna sound super nerdy. You guys are gonna make fun of me for this. It was from Harry Potter, but I had to go back and read it. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Troy is a big quote guy.
I'm a big quote.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite quote?
So my favorite quote, the reason why I do this is because I love, like I said, I love quotes. Mine is "Make the big time where you're at." So essentially what that says, that's from Frosty Westring. He's a PL Pacific Lutheran. It's a college right down the road. It's really impacted me all throughout my life, but really what it means is be where your feet are at. You know, don't try to look too far ahead, too far in the past. You know,
Okay. I like that quote. We had a quote when I was playing high school football. Coach, we come back from a big win. He had quotes all the time, but he was like, "All glory is fleeting." I think that was from Patton.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, what does that mean when you're in high school? Right? Get over it. Your next task is we had another game Friday night.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, Colby, I got to get to work. I am so thankful that you took the time out of your day to talk with us, especially you had some awesome stories. Everything you talked about is so real world, especially for us. And, even being on a baseball podcast, so many people are going to take what you say and really take it to heart. At least I hope so. I know I do. But thank you again for spending today with us and talking a lot about yourself. I love it.
Thank you.
I got one before we leave.
Okay.
Troy, what is that in the background? Right behind you. Is that a Mariners?
It is. It's
Jersey?
Safeco Field. It is an All-Star Game poster.
Wow.
Yep, from 2001.
So you're a Mariners fan?
I still am a Mariners fan. I still secretly root for them.
Okay. Just checking.
I don't own any Mariners stuff because I don't buy myself any clothes anymore. I get a lot of free clothes. So
I got a Mariners jersey somewhere around here.
Yeah?
Yeah. I got some jerseys, a bat somewhere around here. So what a beautiful stadium. Beautiful. I mean, during the summer, that's probably the nicest atmosphere, the nicest, setup in baseball during the summer. During the winter, April, May, most of June, not so much.
Not so much. Exactly. Yeah.
But when the sun comes out, God, it's gorgeous up there. And happy they're winning again, or they're back to winning. Because that year, 2001 was that year they won 116 games?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that was
119.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it's a good picture.
God.
I just call it Safeco. I have trouble calling it T-Mobile. But
Okay. Can I ask you one trivia question? We're done since you're a Mariners fan.
One trivia
Who
question.
was the player that got traded for Lou Piniella?
Lou Piniella? Was it Pete Rose?
No, Lou Piniella got traded from the managers to Tampa.
As a manager?
Yes, you didn't know this? You don't know your Mariners history? You call yourself a Mariners fan? Troy, come on. Scott, do you know this answer?
No, I don't know this. I remember the trade, but I was young. I don't remember the details.
Yeah, you remember the player though. Randy Wynn.
Oh, yeah, he was
He
good.
got traded from Tampa to Seattle for Lou Piniella, basically. 2003. There's a bit of trivia. Mariners history for you, because I played Bob Melvin, who's now the manager of the Giants, got the job in 2003.
See, I would have had my first out. No single for me.
Yeah.
That was just a single question.
That should have been a layup. How old were you in 2003, Troy?
I was 6.
Okay. But they were good. And the players loved Piniella. I mean, because I've been that year. Those guys would have ran through the wall. Whatever he did, he did a really good job for the Mariners those years. So, all right, I'll let you go. I know you got to get to work.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending the day with us. I appreciate it. And, we have podcasts wherever you get podcasts. We are on Spotify, Apple.
Do I get a gift or anything?
I can get you a gift.
Like a gift card or anything for coming on? Or
you want payment? Yeah, for sure. I'll give you. I'll Venmo you 50 cents.
Okay.
We're just starting out. We haven't built our corporate base yet.
Working. Okay. Just asking. These are questions you gotta ask.
A gift card might be in your future if you play your cards
right. Not from Starbucks.
Not from Starbucks. All right, deal.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll run across each other sometime really soon here.
Yes, we will. Awesome. Well, thank you, Colby. I appreciate it.
Take care and good luck, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
So that was Greg Colbrunn, long major league career, long career as a coach now. Troy, I love the part. I was just sitting back and you guys are just talking hitting. That was so cool. I don't know that stuff. I'm assuming most people don't have the inside knowledge of professional baseball hitting and what it's like to hit off major league pitchers. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Like, there's not one way to hit. There's so many different ways to think about it, so many feels, so many different drills that you can do to like get yourself in a good position. But of course, like Greg was saying, there's certain things that every hitter does well. Like if you look at big league hitters, minor league, whatever it is, a 12-year-old, they all do certain things the same. And so if we can kind of hammer down that is the way to have a couple things be set in stone, then you can leave all the creativity up to the hitter and let them do what they do. Because of course, hitting is so much fun and so much fun to watch. Pitchers might not like it, but I prefer hitting over anything else. And talking to Greg, he has some awesome points, even just stories about his time playing that I'm just so thankful he got to spend some time with us and got to tell us all these stories.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing about him as a coach, knowing that you had him last year, obviously in Jacksonville? Like, this guy is having my back because of what?
I mean, my favorite part about him is just it's relaxed. There's no tightness. There's no, hey, we got to do this. We have to do this and this and this. It's like, just go play. We'll evaluate later. Like, just go play, go compete, go try to win a ball game. And so that's the way that I look at baseball in general is, we are trying to win no matter what, but it's not about the mechanics. It's not about having a pretty swing. It's about getting the job done, whatever it is. And so when we talk baseball and all this kind of stuff, it's very simple. It's very easy. It's very fluid. And so I think that's the best part about him. And, I think he does have my back, mostly because I make fun of him too much. And then it's like, it's easy. It's easy that way. My favorite, like I said, the big Greg Colbrunn when he he hit a home run. And that was probably one of my favorite calls. I love coming into the cage and yelling that at him.
Speaking of winning, I know it doesn't matter in spring training. I'm going to see you on Saturday.
Oh, sweet.
Marlins, Phillies, and then Marlins at the Mets. So we'll meet the Mets on Sunday. So if you hit a home run when I'm in the broadcast booth, you got to do something crazy, I think.
Should I cartwheel across home plate in a spring training game?
Yeah, definitely. That won't backfire at all.
I wouldn't have a job after that.
No, don't do that. I hope I get to call it. I hope I get to call you hitting a home run. That would be so cool.
That it's at the Phillies?
What's that?
That it's at Phillies, or are we at
home?
No,
you guys on Saturday are home against the Phillies, so in Jupiter, but then at the Mets. So Port St. Lucie, which
Mets is a good place to hit.
Yeah, they got that nice little berm in right field.
Yep.
I figure my kids will be out there, so maybe that would be the ultimate thing.
Hit them a ball.
Home run, I call it, and one of my kids gets the baseball.
That's the dream right there. All right, let's speak it into existence.
That's right.
Speak it into the world.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Please, if you liked this episode, if you like our podcast, please rate and review us. That's, again, we're young, we're growing. This is episode 3, so that'll help us continue to grow. Thanks for your time. Troy, I'll see you in a few days. And for my partner, Troy Johnston, I'm Scott Kornberg. Thanks again for tuning in to Turn 2 with Scott and Troy.
And that's the ball game. Thanks for listening to this episode of Turn 2 Podcast with Scott and Troy. A huge thanks to Ken Babby, Harold Craw, Linda McNabb, Noel Blaha, Matt Goodrow, David Ratz, Elian Bay, and the rest of the Jumbo Shrimp staff for their continued support.